Hi and welcome to another interesting video. I'm Success Runs by name, and in this video we're going to be talking about incandescent bulb. Yeah, I know you have learned about the incandescent bulb, how does it work, or like kind of confused on how does incandescent bulb actually works. In this video we're going to cover all that. I'm going to explain how the incandescent bulb actually works, how does it actually generate the light, and how does it actually works internally, what is made of, and everything. You're gonna get it in this video, so do all to stay to the ending of this video to get great insights and full tutorial. And also, I actually said in my Patreon I'm going to be making a video about my brother's laptop, but eventually the laptop considered to work, and I don't know, I was just like, wow, okay, it works, let's make another new video. If you consider joining my Patreon, you can join for free. First link in the description is going to lead you to my Patreon to join for free to get behind the scenes and video content which I actually post on my Patreon before I post it on my channel. Anyways, let's just go into the video. Okay, now you're going to be asking me, what is an incandescent bulb, how does it actually works, and what is actually made of. Now, incandescent bulb is actually a type of bulb in the bulb history, like a kind of layer which actually used to light up a house. Like if your house is kind of dark or you need a light in your room, which is gonna like make your room bright and stuff like that, so you can get the incandescent bulb. But the one fact of the incandescent bulb is that it is inefficient. Yeah, the incandescent bulb is 90 to 95% inefficient. Yeah, it's 90 to 95% it generates heat stuff. Like the heat which actually generated is really much that it actually generates most of its power to heat. Like it turns most of its power to heat. So 90 to 95% of heat generated is the power which actually you feed into it. So let me say maybe 10 to 15% is the light which is actually generated, and 90 to 90% is actually heat which is actually generated, which is bullshit, and which is why new CO4 bulbs and new LEDs are generated. LED white bulbs to save power and also to save current. So yeah, incandescent bulbs are really inefficient, and that is the number one fact which you need to know in the bulb history. Now, the very question which I'm going to be answering in this video is, how does this actually generate light? Like how does the light is actually generated? How does the incandescent bulb actually generate light? That's the very question which I'm going to be answering right now. If you look closely in the bulb, I'm going to make a video about it. If you look closely in the bulb, you're going to see a little filament. Now that filament is actually called the tungsten filament. Now this filament is used because it has high heating point. What do I mean by high heating point? It has high melting point. What do I mean by high melting point? It means that it has a very high temperature. It's have to reach a very high temperature before it melts up. Like it's very high in melting point. Its melting point is very high. Its heating point is very high. Now, first off, before you generate light from this incandescent bulb, you're going to consider putting electricity into it. You're going to consider putting power into it. Now, right here, the incandescent bulb which I'm actually holding right here is actually the 12 volt 2.2 watt incandescent bulb. I don't know if you can see it clearly. I'm going to make a video about that. Now you can see that this incandescent bulb I'm actually holding is actually the 12 volt 2.2 watt incandescent bulb. Now this incandescent bulb is actually generates light. Like it generates light to small. Now incandescent bulb are different types. You can get an incandescent bulb of 220 volt, 120 volt, different voltage, different sizes, and different light intensity. Like if you get a small incandescent bulb, we're gonna get a small light. If we get a big incandescent bulb, we're gonna get a big light. I don't even get any big incandescent bulb, but I'll show you the pic right now. So this incandescent bulb I'm actually holding right here is actually a 12 volt type of incandescent bulb. Now if you look closely right here, this is actually the negative terminal, and this is actually the positive terminal. So you just put your positive terminal of the battery to here, and you put your negative to here. Like if you have a 12 volt battery or stuff like that, 12 volt power supply, that's what you're just gonna do. So now when electricity flows through the incandescent bulb, you can see inside of the tube right here, you can see a little thin filament. Now this filament is actually the tungsten filament which I'm actually talking about, which has high melting point. Now current flows through this filament, and this filament generate a lot of heat due to resistance. It's just like you bring your positive and your negative of a battery. When you join it together, it's going to create a lot of heat. Let me say you're short circuiting a lead acid battery, it's going to get very hot, and you're going to see a red hotty stuff like that, and that is actually what is actually happening inside. But because of the oxygen and the air which is actually inside the water moisture, which actually is contained by oxygen, it ionizes and it melts off. That's why when you short circuit a battery, you can see the wire starts melting up. But in this incandescent bulb, it's vice versa. The power actually goes to this little thin filament inside here, and when you notice, the filament actually gets red hot. Now you're going to be asking, why does this filament actually does not cut off? Because it's actually very thin. It's just gonna cut off in real quick in seconds. Why does it actually cut off? Now it actually does not cut off because there is no oxygen inside of this tube. Yeah, if you look closely inside, I know you cannot differentiate it as oxygen or there's no oxygen, but yes, there is actually no oxygen inside of this tube. It's actually a vacuum filled with argon or nitrogen. Like it either can be filled with argon, or it either can be filled with nitrogen, or it can just be a vacuum which there's no air inside, there's no oxygen inside, because the absence of air is actually sustain this filament. If there's actually air or there is actually oxygen inside of this tube, this filament is going to burn out in seconds. So because of there's no air inside the tube, the filament have much time to glow and you can see it. And actually, as I said in the intro of this video, 90 to 95% of the power which is being inputted into this bulb generates at heat. It's just give out at heat. When you connect it to a battery or stuff like that, you can see that the bulb is very hot because it's inefficient and stuff like that. Just 5 to 10% is actually the light which is actually produced, and the other is just heat which is actually produced. So yeah, it's inefficient, what I said. I hope you really understand on how it actually generates the light. Let's go to the next one. Now, another question which I'm going to be asking is that how long does this actually last? I actually said that there is no air inside of this tube right here, which actually helps to keep the filament burning and keep the filament to generate electricity, to generate light. So how long does it actually last? Does it actually last forever? Does it don't spoil or stuff like that? This actually spoils over time. It actually lasts for over 1,200 to 2,500 hours of use time, and after that time it actually does burn out because the filament actually evaporates over time. Yeah, I know that there's no oxygen inside of this tube. You fill it with nitrogen to avoid it from burning out or oxidizing with the air, or oxidizing with the oxygen from burning out. But after some time, it actually evaporates. The filament actually evaporates and this actually burns out. But yes, it actually lasts for some time, but yeah, it eventually burn out, and so the filament actually burn out. So this, like I said, bulb doesn't last forever, so you just have to know that. Now, just as I said in the intro of this video, this filament actually generates light, and it actually gets really hot, which actually generates that light. Now, just as I said in the earlier this video, I said that if you short two battery terminals, like if you put the positive and negative terminals together, you know it's gonna get very hot and gonna burn out eventually because of the air which is actually actually in the place and the environment. But if you put that terminals inside of a vacuum, and you put in nitrogen or argon, you can see that it's actually gonna last more longer. Now, if you look inside of this filament actually generates heat, and it actually gets hot up to 2,500 degrees Celsius, which is a lot to boil water. So yes, I just want to tell you the temperature, just want to let you know the temperature which actually this filament actually gets to, and which actually I said it has a very high melting point. That's why it's used, and it's inputted into this vacuum, because it has very high melting point other than other metals, which is going to last long, but eventually going to spoil out by evaporation over time. So I guess you'll get the full breakdown on how the incandescent bulb actually works, what is actually inside the incandescent bulb, what actually generates the lights, how it's built, and everything you need to know about the incandescent bulb. Hope you really enjoyed this video and get the full breakdown on how the incandescent bulb works and stuff like that. If you really have any questions you don't understand, or you don't understand what I'm actually talking about, you don't understand my points, just let me know in the comment section below, and I'll talk to it and understand you and answer your question as soon as possible. As I said earlier in this video, the incandescent bulb actually consists of a vacuum which actually closes the filament, which actually inside, that generates the electricity. Due to the resistance of the filament, this actually generates a thermal heat, which is actually called the light, which actually generate the light. So the heat and the resistance actually generate the light, as you can see when it's powered. Now, this is actually a 12-volt type of incandescent bulb that's actually holy. As I said earlier, there are different types of incandescent bulb: big type, 12-volt type, 220. And also, this incandescent bulb are inefficient. It only generates 5 to 10% of its electricity to light, and 90 to 95% of its electricity is just heat, and it wastes that. So it's really inefficient. That's why new CFL bulbs and LEDs are generated for more efficient and more efficiency and stuff like that. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you so, do subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And also join my Patreon to get behind the scenes and also updates on new videos are actually coming up. You can join for free. That will be also in the link in the description. And also I created a GoFundMe campaign to get a new device on editing, because I'm having a kind of lag in editing and stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys will check, that will be also in the link in the description, and also my socials. I really appreciate you for supporting me and stuff like that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.